Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Galloway and Isabel podcast. My name is Thomas Galloway. To my left,
Evan Isabel.
How are you doing, Evan?
Doing pretty, I'm sick, but it's fine. We're going to power through.
And your voice sounds perfect for this.
I know. I couldn't have had a better cold to have a good podcast.
This is ideal.
Right.
And to my right,
Noah Galloway.
Noah, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Okay. So we have some stuff to talk about today, but before we get into all of that, this podcast is brought to you by Morning Bell Coffee Roasters. Morning Bell offers a diverse and unique selection of specialty coffees and have direct personal relationships with their suppliers. You can visit Morning Bell at 111 Main Street in Ames, Iowa, or get their coffee at the Wheatsfield Co-op or either Hy-Vee location in Ames. If you do not live in the Ames area, that is not a problem. You can order off their website, morningbellcoffee.com, and shipping is free anywhere in the United States if you order over 2 pounds of coffee. And whether you visit the actual location or order online, let them know we sent you. Okay, so Evan, what do we have to talk about today?
So first off, I'm going to give a little intro to about myself. So for the past 4 years, I've been studying Spanish. I started first with my community college at DMAC, and my first inspiration, who is Camila Vera she's from Colombia. She was my teacher. And after a while, I used to go talk to her all the time. She would tutor me a lot. And one day she told me, Evan, you have to get out of Iowa. You have to get out of the United States. You have to go study somewhere. And so that, the next day, I went looking for a study abroad online. And the following summer, I was in Costa Rica studying Spanish. And then I started studying my bachelor's degree at Iowa State. And I did another study abroad to Spain. And that was amazing. And I'm currently getting my bachelor's degree in the World Language and Cultures program for Spanish. So I wanted to do this podcast on what inspired me to study Spanish, to study Castilian Spanish and the cultures that come out of the Spanish-speaking world. This podcast today is about the spread of Spanish language throughout the world. So obviously Spanish originated from Spain, officially, or specifically the Iberian Peninsula, which is, modern-day Spain. There were originally some different kingdoms that were fighting for power. And then in 1492, the first Castilian Spanish grammar book was written by Antonio de Nebrija. Which sounds super boring, right? It's just like a grammar book. It's super boring. But this is a big deal because it was an important tool to create a unified empire. And then that empire started spreading 1492, this is a big date. Christopher Columbus, otherwise known as Cristobal Colon, sailed the sea and was like, yo, I'm in Asia, right? And people were like, yo, this ain't Asia. This is not Asia.
Okay, it's Asia.
And he's like, dude, I gotta write to the king and queen, they're gonna freak out on me. So he's like, yo, we found this really amazing land. We gotta take it over.
Definitely. I sailed the whole ocean blue for this.
Sailed the whole ocean blue, and we're not really sure. I'm not sure if he ever found out that it wasn't Asia. There wasn't a lot of information.
Right.
And there weren't a lot of from my understanding, there weren't a lot of Asian dudes on the voyage to the Americas because there wasn't a lot of contact. So
Right.
But anyway, getting back on topic, in March 11th, the 11th of March, 1778, we have the Treaty of El Pardo, which is a treaty between Spain and Portugal. Spain wanted to get in on the slave trade, which is unfortunate, but this was a big deal for these empires. Mm. So Portugal wanted a ton of land from Spain. Spain was had all of South America, a little bit of North America, actually a ton of North America, I think. The thing is, Portugal wanted some of that land because they're like, yo, we want some of that Americas. Yeah. And so Portugal was like, yo, Spain, you want this 10,000 square mile plot of land in Africa? And Spain was like, yo, take a ton of South America. We want that land. And so, now we have this 2,830 square mile plot of land, which is now called Equatorial Guinea. It is currently the smallest Spanish-speaking country in the world. and it's in Africa. It's in Equatorial Guinea, which means like equatorial, like equator, so halfway down on the left side, or if you know how to read directions, halfway down on the west side. But yeah, it's a really interesting to think about, because I didn't know about Equatorial Guinea before I started studying Spanish. I didn't know that there was a Spanish speaking country. And actually, believe it or not, there's 2 cities in northern Africa that are actually part of Spain, but that's a different topic. Just a fun fact. And but yeah, did you guys know about Equatorial Guinea before I showed you guys these videos about Equatorial Guinea?
All I knew about Equatorial Guinea was just that it had to be on the equator.
Boom.
That was literally all I knew.
Yeah, that's something.
Really?
That is kind of, so they were basically like, you can have Brazil, we just want Equatorial Guinea.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Well, the thing is, like, Spain didn't have any slaves, which is, like, I mean, they were trying to make slaves out of like the natives, which is unfortunate. Like, so many like natives died. It was terrifying, like, to look back at this. And then like what's kind of messed up is that like so when I studied in Spain, I studied in Cartharis, and there's this what's his name? I think it was Cortez. Cortez is one of the most infamous or famous.
They were talking about him in *Sapiens*, how when he came to South America or Latin America, wherever it was that he started out, that he just basically told everyone that he had the authority of the king, queen of Spain behind him, when he didn't really have any of it, and just told everybody. And they also wasn't he the guy they thought was some kind of god?
Oh yeah,
Because
he showed up with
horses, right?
ships and horses.
Yeah,
and all
so
this
Hernan
stuff.
Cortez, he was the one that conquered pretty much Mexico. So he was the one that fought the Aztecs.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was pretty disgusting, like his story, because, well, actually, so some of it was cool, but then some of it's disgusting. And what is it? So yeah, they were like trying to make a deal with the emperor of the Aztecs. I don't want to get this wrong, because like it's really embarrassing when you get this wrong. Like, because you can, Aztecs. So you got the Aztecs and you got
The Mayans.
the Mayans. Yeah, but I'm
Incas.
pretty sure this was the Aztecs.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying like things that I sound like
Mayans, Aztecs.
Mayans, Incas.
Incas, Aztecs. But no, I'm pretty sure Hernan Cortez was trying to he was like conquering mainland, was now Mexico, and what was he doing? Montezuma was the king of the Aztecs, right? And so they ended up butting heads, and then I think Montezuma ended up getting killed by his own people because he was like not like super well liked, and then basically the Spanish just like slaughtered like a ton of people. I think what happened was like there was like 12 Spanish soldiers that died, and then they were like, "Yo, this can't happen," so they went and like killed like a ton of people.
That's crazy.
So okay. Anyway, back on track. What were we talking about?
The Equatorial
Guinea.
Equatorial Guinea. So yeah, Spain traded like a ton of land for Equatorial Guinea.
I didn't realize they had so much oil.
Yeah. So
I did not. You always hear about Saudi Arabia and all these places, but you never hear about Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah, and the vice president makes $100,000 a year, but he's worth like a few $100 million, I think.
Or his
right?
government salary is less than $100,000 a year, but he makes
Right.
like $300 million.
well,
and
he
then-
finds ways to get $300 million.
Find ways to get $300 million. Yeah.
And then I think 75% of the country is living in poverty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Which is it's crazy. It's the world's like I think they said Africa's highest GDP.
Yeah.
But they have like living situations that are not like comparable to these GDPs. Like it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I mean, when you look at the situation, it makes sense because the country's got oil.
They're producing.
They're producing oil, but that money does not go to 100% of the population. It goes to a very small percent of the population, as you can see. So
Yeah, and then they built those 54 mansions that aren't used anymore, right?
yeah, so this country's
Well,
like.
real quick, do you want to just like list off the videos that we were watching?
Yeah, that's a
earlier?
very good idea. So I will do that.
I have them here as well, I think.
in a couple minutes.
Yeah, just in a couple seconds. They could. Hey, everyone can chill for half a second. Okay, I'm right here.
Chill out, bro. We're looking these up.
The first video is inside Japan's Chicano subculture, and the next two are about Equatorial Guinea. Instagram Playboy is also the vice president of Equatorial Guinea, and the third video, what is Equatorial Guinea? In parentheses, they speak Spanish.
Yeah, that guy was. It's an important point to note that they speak Spanish in Equatorial Guinea. I thought that was really cool when I found that out. I was like, cool, Spanish-speaking country in Africa.
That's wild. I would not have guessed that. Okay, so the vice president being just this guy who goes insane on Instagram is pretty wild.
Right.
This is kind of a wild thought. I was watching it and thinking about, so occasionally we complain about our leader, or some people do.
I mean, a lot of people do.
A lot of people do. The popular vote. I mean, over half or something like that. But I mean, that guy was just insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wasn't amidst his trial or something, he was out on a safari petting lions.
So this dude, he's I can't remember what he did to get on trial, but he's got a ton of property in France. I think it was $25 million worth of property in France, and then he's going on trial, and he's out on safari just taking photos with animals.
Yeah,
it's dude.
Yeah, rubbing lions' bellies. Yeah. The whole it sort of reminds me of a story that Neil deGrasse Tyson told on Joe Rogan's podcast. We talk about Christopher Columbus. How he needed food to get. He was someplace, I don't know if it was Latin America or maybe it was here actually.
Wait, Christopher Columbus?
Yeah, in modern day U.S. At some point in one of his expeditions, I don't know if it's before or after, whenever it was.
Okay.
But he was trying to get back across the Atlantic, and he needed food to get his people back, and so he knew the cycle of the eclipses or whatever. So he told the native people that if they didn't give him food, he was going to wait there, and then in a week, their god was going to, whatever a solar eclipse does.
Whatever.
Because he knew the schedule. Yeah,
I could buy that. Dude, Christopher Columbus, he was a pretty smart guy. He'd lie to his own crew, and he would just because he wanted to be the only one that knew. When the king and queen of Spain, Isabel and Ferdinand, man, I think that's wrong. Well, Isabel is the important one. The girl is the important one, the queen. But when they sent Christopher Columbus over, they were like, yo, whoever sees land first gets this cool prize, right? Really cool prize. And Christopher Columbus, he was like, all right, whoever sees land first, you guys get a cool prize. But then he ended up just taking the prize. So that was kind of mean. And then they would with the indigenous people of the Americas, they would be like, yo, bring us your gold. And they'd bring gold, and then they'd give them sand. They'd give them pieces of glass and broken trinkets and stuff.
That's cold.
Dude was not a nice guy.
Yeah. So what else we got?
So the other thing I wanted to talk about today was that article by Thompson Hernandez, and this dude wrote an article called "How My Southeast LA Culture Got to Japan," and then the subtitle says, "I grew up with Chicano and Chicana culture in Los Angeles, and heard it spread to Japan. I wonder, is this cultural appropriation?" So I thought it was wow, this is a really interesting article. And, but yeah, this is the last thing I want to talk about, just about how the various cultures of the Spanish-speaking world, just how far they've gone. On the one hand, we have, Spanish trap music with artists like Bad Bunny, who's currently at the 29th most listened to artist, he's 29th most listened to artist in the world on Spotify.
That's crazy.
But yeah, what I want to talk about is this article, how Southeast LA culture got to Japan. First of all, what do you guys think? Do you guys like it?
Yeah, it was an interesting video.
Yeah,
It is really interesting, like what, how the process in which cultures get adopted by other cultures, like what intrigues them about those. Like I just finished the super long jazz documentary.
Oh yeah, you want to tell us
Yeah.
about that? Like,
It was really
how
interesting.
long is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this before, guys.
Have you ever mentioned how long your jazz documentary?
I don't know. Was it like? I'm having a hard time remembering, honestly. But it could have been like 18 hours or more. I don't really know for sure.
Wow, that's dedicated.
Who knows? I got lost in the moments. But it was really interesting because obviously a huge theme of this was white musicians getting into it and then adopting it, and at times when it was and then commercializing it in the late 20s and early 30s, the black musicians got it popular, and then the white musicians took it and actually were able to get record deals and all this stuff and actually make money off it, actually monetize it. And so obviously that's
like obvious cultural appropriation. That's
Right.
like that's why people do not like cultural appropriation.
yeah. And not only is it disingenuous, but they're the only ones they were able to
Make
actually
money,
make money
yeah.
off of it.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, because people actually came out and saw them, and then even the white artists who wanted to have black musicians in their bands or vice versa, really just couldn't do it. Like, the black bands could have white musicians a little more easily, but then black musicians would get upset, like, there's only so many jobs to go around where you give them the white musicians, and then vice versa, and white bands couldn't really have black musicians, otherwise they could perform a lot of places. There's just a lot of that, and there's definitely a certain period of time where the people who started the art didn't get any really
Weren't
benefits.
benefiting, yeah.
Exactly.
That's like a big theme. Like a lot of a lot of people. I'm pretty sure they still do, but like a lot of people used to get screwed over big time in the music industry. There'd be artists that I can't remember who it was, but like it was this huge artist that I used to love listening to, and I was reading an article about him, and it was like this dude was broke. Like his whole career he was broke, but he was like he had a top 10 music, like a song on the top 10 chart, but his whole life he was broke.
That's crazy.
Yeah, part of it is like, well, sometimes there's just the money's going to the wrong people in the situations, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was really interesting how like this culture. So I did a little bit more digging into this article, and there was people saying that like, well, on the one hand, how can it be cultural appropriation? Because there's Japanese that are in LA,
Right.
and if you're bringing if there's a Japanese group in LA and then they go back to Japan and they bring back their culture with them, that's not like really appropriation. That's just cultural transmission. That's just culture exchange.
Yeah.
So there's people saying that, but I think the most important thing to me, the most interesting thing was just how far the culture has gone, like how far it's gone. Like we can look at Korean pop music, like that is something that's like that blew me away. Like I don't listen to it, and I really don't enjoy. Like this morning, I was having a hard time getting up, so I put on a Korean pop song that like annoy me, so I would wake up.
And it worked?
And it worked perfectly. The song is called what's it called? Fancy. It's called Fancy. If you want to if you want to know what it's like to be like a 9-year-old girl with too much sugar, just listen to this song and you'll be like, wow.
No, I know.
This is intense. But yeah, Korean pop music is something that's insane. Like I used to go on Omegle and put it so that I would like get Spanish speaking countries or Spanish speaking people, and like so because of this I would be speaking to like a bunch of different people throughout the world, and like a lot of the times I would talk to people and they'd be like, yeah, listen to K-pop. I'm like, wait, what? Like this is like when I started like being like, wow, K-pop is like a big deal, and then you look into it and you're like, K-pop's like everywhere.
They're like selling out stadiums and stuff in LA.
They sell out stadiums like
All
even
over
in the
the place.
States, which is shouldn't be that big of a surprise, but like it was when
A little bit, yeah.
Did they perform the Grammys or was that someone else?
They did. I'm pretty sure. Or they're definitely. That sounds really
Or they
familiar.
presented at least.
It's been a while. That's a whole 2 months ago. So, what got you interested in Equatorial Guinea?
Okay, so it was about like 2 years ago, and I was taking this class on business, international business, with like a focus on like Spanish, and so we talk about like business words that I've now forgotten, unfortunately, and but in Spanish, obviously. And we talk about negocios, business, like trade and stuff, trade. My professor, Elisa Riso, she was very passionate about Equatorial Guinea. She did, I think, research there. She made trips to Equatorial Guinea. And so she was the first one that brought it up, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. That's super interesting. And I mean, I haven't done a ton of research on it, just enough to like know some basic facts about it and some interesting information. But you'd be surprised, there's like a ton of like native Spanish speakers that don't know that Equatorial Guinea exists.
Right.
Just, I mean, like a ton of people that don't know exists, which is fine. Like, it's okay if you don't know about things, but like, it's just a really interesting fun fact.
Yeah. They said, so the guy who has all the Instagram posts is the vice president, and his dad's the president. So what is their government structure? It seems like is some kind of, definitely in the family.
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Pass that down.
I'm pretty sure that, I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that much about it, but I do know that it's very
definitely doesn't feel like a democracy.
It doesn't feel like a good democracy.
It definitely doesn't.
The people I don't think the people feel like they're safe speaking about politics. From what we talked about in class, it seems like the people there are very afraid.
Right.
Like supposedly they have freedom to speak about politics, but it's very obvious that this is not like a real like intended right that they're trying to enforce. It's like the opposite.
Yeah, that reminds me. Okay, so I did a podcast about China and with a political science professor at Iowa State.
Oh, what's his name?
Jonathan Hassid.
Jonathan Hassid. Okay.
So he's expert in China. You can find that on the Galloway Law podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out later.
Can never resist the opportunity to plug my podcast.
Oh yeah.
But he was talking about how China, like, they do have some specific freedoms as far as the press goes, but there's so many gray areas as far as what is actually allowed.
Yeah.
That what is officially allowed isn't really allowed.
Exactly.
And also it's constantly a moving target. So reporters are never really sure quite what they can report on.
Yeah.
And it's very possible they can report on something and then a year later that thing is deemed to be something they cannot report on, and then they get in trouble. And in 2011, I think when they finished up this study, it was approximately 2011, that they had like 30 journalists in jail, which is the most of any country, just ahead of some country in the Middle East. And I think they're still near the top of that list. Now, I mean, 30 in a country the size of China doesn't seem like a lot, but those are only the ones that actually tested the limits of what's allowed. Whereas there's tons of, even when you have 30 journalists in jail, you also have a bunch of journalists who just won't even try anything.
Yeah.
They're not going to test limits at all. They've learned their lesson.
Yeah, like I've done just because I'm in this China Today class, I've read a little bit about this, and it's a little, it's really interesting because you definitely can't be talking about Tiananmen Square on social media.
Right.
That's not gonna fly. But they actually do. I mean, they have freedoms that are given to them, but it seems like there's some gray areas.
Yeah.
That you might not want to test.
Right.
I found it really interesting when I went to Spain that you can't make fun of the king. Like, you're not allowed to make fun of the king on social media, which I thought was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I don't know how I would react if I wasn't allowed to make fun of Trump. Like,
right.
If I'm not allowed to make fun of Donald Trump, then what is the point?
What's the point of social media?
What's the point of what's the point of anything if I can't make fun of Trump?
Right.
Like, that's what I'm doing right now. Like, is this podcast going to get taken down because Trump's a goofball? No.
Right. Yeah. And, well, that's what I was thinking earlier when we were looking at, like, how ludicrous some of the things that guy was posting on Instagram, the vice president. And then you think about, like, we could have a situation like that potentially.
Wait, what happened with Ludacris?
Well, just like the Ludacris isn't like insane.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the rapper. I was like, what did Ludacris do? That poor boy. He's such a stand-up guy.
Yeah, no, Ludacris is good. Just the insanity of it.
Oh yeah, the ludicrousness.
Ludicrousness of it, and ludicrosity. And but we have we have like certain structures in place that would keep. It feels like it'd be less likely for something like that to happen, where like some kind of crazy guy could just sort of run our country.
Yeah.
Now, like we kind of feel like he might be running our country, because he's not. I mean, whatever you think about Trump, I think stability is not what comes to mind.
No, yeah.
He's definitely not stable. But we have a system that makes it more difficult for him to be not stable. It just makes it harder for him to do that.
Okay.
Which is nice, which is somewhat comforting.
Yeah. Oh man, what was I gonna say? Oh no. This cold's getting my head. So
It happens, dude.
yeah.
The voice is on point,
But the head's gone.
The head's gone. And you know what? That's a trade-off you take.
So sure.
And generally, worth it.
It's worth it.
Worth it.
I'll take the voice any day over quality thought.
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the
who needs
voice
to
is
agree
important.
when you've got a good voice? Like if I had this voice out of high school, I'd have been like, no, I'm not going to college. I'm gonna go on air
Right.
and become a radio man because my voice is unique and growly
Exactly.
and scratchy.
Exactly.
And it's so cool.
Just
And I just want to have an audio file.
keep
of it.
saying words.
Just keep
Well,
speaking.
here's a dirty little secret about podcasts: is a lot of the time people are doing other stuff as they're listening to podcasts. So the most important thing is to have a voice that is kind of like
Relaxing.
relaxing, and
Yeah.
you guys just
Dude, have you heard the podcast Speak to what's his name? Anyway, it's this dude that speaks to you. He just rambles. He talks about random stuff. It doesn't even make sense half the time. Like if you were to listen to this guy throughout the day, you'd be like, what is this guy talking about? But it's just specifically so like he can bore you to sleep.
yeah.
And like I used to listen to him, man. I used to just like pop him in and be like, oh, this guy's interesting.
It's the guy with a voice.
He just speaks.
I kind of want to do a podcast like every day, just by myself,
Yeah.
and just talking to the mic like this.
Do the ASMR thing.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing tonight?
Oh, that's not ASMR. That's like half between ASMR.
I wasn't really sure what
ASMR.
what's ASMR.
ASMR is the when they whisper when they whisper into the mic.
Okay.
And they do like they tap their fingers on things like like that, and then I don't know, like it's a big craze. It's like a big. I don't think it's a fad because it's staying. It's been here since like 2014, I think. And it's still here. People
Right.
are still liking that whispering.
That's
It's
interesting.
just like the SNL skit where the stereotype of golf is that they just whisper the whole time. They're like, quiet guys, we just want to hear the grass grow.
Yeah, and that's a Robin Williams stand-up.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, not to be a douche or anything. I just want to give the man credit, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So just look up both.
But yeah, what I kind of want to do is do a podcast like this, where I just sit right next to the mic and just talk about my day. And so today, guys, woke up about 8:30 a.m. and I had a little bit of eggs and a little bit of bacon. And
Wait, what? You had
Well-
eggs and bacon for breakfast?
I had eggs, bacon,
Not
for
water?
breakfast. Well, this is I'm just
Oh,
it is
just
all
water.
hypothetical.
Okay.
This,
I
this
thought
is,
you were on a diet of just water.
Have I never
in the
mentioned that
morning.
before?
Wait, what?
Have I never mentioned that I don't eat breakfast?
Wait, do you?
This is insane. I
Oh.
can't believe I've never mentioned this to you guys. Oh well, this is.
I thought you ate
Darn.
breakfast. You don't eat breakfast.
Is it true that you run too?
Do you run? No, you don't eat breakfast and you run.
Have I never mentioned any of these things to
Oh
you guys?
my
Oh my
goodness.
god, I missed out on so many
and aren't
good
your runs like pretty long?
How long are your runs?
double-digit miles, boys.
Double-digit miles.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must be
God,
getting
dude.
like dopamine rush to the head.
Oh,
like
I know.
crazy.
Also,
Runners high.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. But I did 10 miles yesterday.
Whoa, you did 10 miles
Yeah, dude.
yesterday?
Oh
You know
my
how many miles I did
goodness.
yesterday?
How many?
Not 10. That's how crazy that is. You did 10 miles.
Dude,
boy.
you've never mentioned that before.
I went to Spotify and typed in like motivational soundtracks paired with like motivational speakers, and dude, you could run for like hours.
Wow.
It's so good.
How many hours could you run for? Like 10
Oh,
hours?
dude, yeah, probably.
Probably like 10 hours.
Yeah, probably 10 hours.
10 miles too, right?
10 miles for sure.
In 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
I could do that.
your speed, yeah. Yeah, but
What were we talking about?
some
We can edit some of
some
this.
Nah, we don't need
like
to
the
edit.
equator or something.
The Equator
Equator.
and Spain and
Ludicrous
Chris and Trump.
and Trump, yeah.
But yeah,
I like somehow have managed to not really have any Trump conversations since for like a year and a half.
that's really impressive. I'm probably just been in a year. I think I had one a year ago, but
Yeah. What I want to do, I don't think so with a law podcast, I try to keep it really impartial.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to just get some constitutional law professor and just be like, hey, guy, I'm going to give you 30 minutes. Just go off.
Go off.
Just talk about whatever you want and just forget being impartial for a second and just let it loose.
Yeah.
I would be very curious to see what he'd do. Now, I'm not going to do that because that podcast is impartial. You know, I want to keep it that way. There's something about that I just,
What if
I
you
like.
put a link on that podcast to a separate podcast that was just like super all the way? Just say what you think.
Yeah. You know what I would like to hear?
For sure.
Is like this, what you just said, that professor, this law professor, go off and then find some like super pro-Trump dude.
Yeah.
Interview him, have him go off, and then find the argument points, and then just have them side by side.
Yeah. That actually is that's a really good idea. Rogan does some stuff like that with like diet stuff. He did recently, like a vegan guy and a keto or whatever guy.
Yeah, and you
keto.
could remain impartial if you put both of them.
Yeah.
But I like that, especially like law professors. They would probably, I don't know how hard they would go, but they liked it. I mean, that's what they went to school for, is debating stuff. So that could be pretty exciting. That'd be fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, like on campus, the majority of teachers I've had are like very obviously not pro-Trump.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why you would. I mean, why would you still be pro-Trump, especially if you're in Iowa? Like, those tariffs he put on, like they're, like honestly just hurting us. Like they kill soybean, and it doesn't make sense. Like, why are the tariffs hurting Iowa, dude? Like, okay, sorry, this is getting.
It's okay. I mean, it's your pod.
Okay, yeah, but like seriously, like.
You know what you want.
Like, I don't know. I was watching this thing about how China, when they did their tariffs, they did it like super strategically, and like if you compare the way Trump did the tariffs, it's like just he threw like darts at a board and was like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Definitely.
Instead of like thinking about like, yo, maybe we shouldn't be hurting Iowa because they voted for Trump.
Yeah. The one main problem with having a super polarized country right now politically, with the media and how that's influenced it, is that then there's more incentive for politicians like Trump to do things specifically to make a certain group happy. Because you actually can, like back in the days when there was just one few impartial media outlets like ABC, CBS, NBC, it's just hard to do like one thing that you can make people happy because they were just going right down the middle. But you can kind of do that now, and so there's certain things he's doing, like tax cuts in the middle of an economy that's doing really well, which is something you should never do. The tariff situation is like so transparently designed to just make a certain group of people happy. And I think that's the most annoying part.
For real. What I want to do is keep a log of how much we talk about politics and the number of views we have.
Yeah.
And see how those correspond.
Right.
See what type of listener base we have.
If we did a podcast that was like specifically about politics and we put in the title like this
politics,
make it clearly about politics, I guarantee you, it would go up.
It would go up.
Really? So I think some people would be annoyed by it and would not want the podcast to be. They wouldn't want us to do like 5 episodes in a row of politics.
Yeah.
But it gets people fired up for whatever reason. Like Noah, you wrote one article about politics, right? And that easily got the most activity. That got by far the most activity.
And there's a bunch of really hateful comments on Facebook when the ISO Daily. Well, because
hateful might be a little strong.
Wait, towards you?
Towards the Daily and me, and they like blocked a lot of the comments so people couldn't see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but like I wouldn't say this was a great article. It wasn't very in depth, and mainly because I could only write like 500 words.
Okay. What were you writing about again?
About gun control, and so.
Wait, were you pro or?
I was pro.
Pro banning guns or pro?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so, it wasn't like I didn't do a great job at it, but like anyway, there's a lot of backlash and it received a ton of attention.
Yeah.
Way more on Facebook than any of the other articles.
No, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's
like
a
probably
really
5-6 times more than any of the other articles.
No, any attention is good attention.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think people say, like, they're super tired of politics and stuff, and I think a lot of people are. But then you have other people who will not tune into anything unless it's politics. Yeah. So I think if we did explicitly start doing political stuff, I think there'd be a certain group of people who had never listened to us before that would start listening.
No, yeah, I think we need more, like, our generation, we need to have more people in the middle. Like, we need to have people that are paying attention, not, like, nonstop, obviously, because you have to have your life, but you should be paying attention, man. Like, the people we vote for are the people that are going to make the decisions that change the world. Like, no matter how, like, small you think your vote is, whether or not you think it's, like, worth it, like, you should be voting. Like, you should be paying attention because, like, I mean, how are you going to feel if you vote for someone or let's say you don't go vote for someone and this person wins and then this person decides, let's go to war with all these countries, and all of a sudden your cousin, your mom, like, whoever gets, like, deployed, and it's like, dude, and it's like a senseless war.
On one of the podcasts I did that was like it was about politics, but it's super impartial. I think it was I did a guide to the Bill of Rights with a professor, or he did the guide to the Bill of Rights. I just read off the rights. Mm-hmm. But for the intro of that podcast, I mentioned, like, if you have we have a platform here that people start listening to, and so I think if we can offer impartial or down the middle of the road thoughts about politics and stuff, or, like, even if, like, one of us, like, takes one side of debate and the other person takes the other side, like, having those kind of conversations,
it's important.
It's important. I think we have an obligation to do it. Like, we got a certain amount of people listening to this to begin with, and for a lot of people, I don't think they really get introduced to discussions about politics unless it's super right or left.
Yeah.
If you think about, like, a lot of people, like, when are they encountering a conversation about politics that's
where it's, like, both sides.
Both sides or right in the middle.
And that's the thing, is I've heard so many, like I'm a liberal, but, like, I've heard so many other, like, super hardcore liberals be like, yo, this guy was talking super this way or that way, and I was just like, yo, I'm not gonna even listen.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that's the same, like, you complain about that, people not listening to you all the time. You should just give them an ear. Like, what's the worst that happens? Like, you disagree? Yeah, you disagree. Right. I mean, like, yeah, maybe they say stuff that you really don't like hearing, but, I mean, you expect them to listen to you without you listening to them? Come on.
Yeah. There's an app, like, for people who do want to read about politics and news, there's an app called Read Across the Aisle, and it keeps track of, it has a bunch of different media organizations on the same app that you can read, and it keeps track of where, first of all, it tells you where those organizations are on the political spectrum. So it tells you, like, it'll have, like, darker red the more conservative it is, and darker blue the more liberal it is, and then it keeps track of, like, your total time spent at different places, and, like, gives you a marker, like, where you are reading on, like, a total,
like, whether you read more liberal,
right? Exactly. So it has, like, a moving little thing that shows you where you're at, and so I think stuff like that's really helpful. Could be really helpful to people, and then just introduces them to news sources that are down the middle, like. I mean, it's also kind of hard to know which ones are and which ones aren't. Like,
just get off Facebook, though. Like,
that'd be a good first step.
Like, if you ever see anything political on Facebook is such a lie, and everyone falls for it so hard.
Yeah.
Like, there's this video, I think I told you about it. There's this video of this 9-year-old boy. He's super jacked. He's got really long hair. Kind of, like, from the back, it looks like it could be a girl because he's got really, like, a big, long ponytail.
Yeah.
And he plays soccer really well. And there's this video of him playing soccer, and I'm like, I've seen this video before. And someone was playing this video from a Facebook post. And this Facebook post says, look at that little girl go. And it's this girl, like, this boy beating all these, like, bigger boys in soccer. Yeah. And, like, this person that posted this video had the choice to be like, all right, I'm gonna post it as it is, or what he thought was, or he or she thought was, you know what? People are gonna watch this if they think it's a little girl beating a bunch of guys.
Right.
So I'm gonna do that. And then everyone in the comments said, "Oh, that girl's awesome." Because I mean, like, if the video says it's a girl, why would the video lie?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's like these little lies that like it goes so far. And like I'm like, yo, this is a boy, and I'd explain it to these people. I'm like, yo, this is a boy, and that was just like another reminder. Like, yo, Facebook is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
they like I was reading an article on fake news, and there was this guy. He lives in Arizona, and he would literally just like it was like his part-time job basically because he got so much ad revenue from it. He would like write the most insane articles, and like so he's a liberal, but he would write to like super conservative people and write the most insane stories that are obviously not true.
Right.
And like they would just like get eaten up and they would spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. A lot of confirmation bias happening out there right now.
And his idea was that like, okay, we'd spread these really ridiculous stories and they would get a lot of attention, and then they would be like, oh, these stories are fake, and people would be like, oh, I've been looking at fake stories. But like obviously people don't care. They just be like, oh no. I mean, yeah, it was fake, but it could have been true.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast talking about initially how social media seemed like a really good thing because you could customize everything you saw to your exact interests, everything that pertained to you.
Makes you more insular.
Right, yeah. And I guess for things that aren't politics, it could have some big advantages because you see like sports stuff you're interested in or whatever, music or whatever it is. But when it comes to politics, it becomes a real problem because all you see is stuff that's reinforcing what you already believe.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, none of this is breaking news,
said,
but go ahead.
Go for it.
None of this is breaking news. Like we all know that like it's not good to see stuff you already believe in all the time. But I mean, we might as well talk about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, confirmation bias. I think a lot of people just look at the articles just that agree with them. And like in biology, last semester they were saying that in science that scientists are supposed to go find things to disprove their theories or beliefs, and then that will firm up their beliefs if the beliefs are actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, who's gonna do that when you're on? Like, if you're getting your information from Facebook, you're already like just like, why not?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, getting angry about something is something it's a way to feel an emotion pretty easily. So if you think about it, like if you don't have a ton of meaning in what you're doing throughout your day, and you don't really get to feel a lot of strong emotions in any direction, like any kind of satisfaction, any kind of resistance, anything strong, one good way to do it is to get upset about something.
Get upset, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that really easily. Whereas you can't get satisfaction. True satisfaction is hard to get. There's a lot of different things that are hard to get. You can get angry real quick.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of people who like, it's like, okay, yeah, you don't believe whoever is a good politician. Reading more anti that is not going to make you believe that anymore. So you're clearly not doing it to come to a certain conclusion about a topic. You're only doing it for the anger, for the whatever.
Yeah. Do you think culture spreads the way Facebook spreads things?
What do you mean? Like,
So like, okay, that was just trying to get my topic back on track.
Oh, I think you did. Okay.
I just have my own personal motives.
No, definitely, dude. This is your
with
pod.
this question.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think so? Okay. Let's talk about the spread of culture and like acculturation. So acculturation is very bad when it's like what we've seen, where it's just like the original culture creates something beautiful, and then the second party comes in, sees that it's marketable, and then sells it, giving no money or respect to the original culture. This is the very like obvious story that's like we all like don't want that to happen. But then like let's take for example in Boone there's like a Mexican restaurant. You take your kid there every day, eating quesadillas, eating chips and salsa and every day. Like at what point can you say that like this kid, like, okay, let's bring some other factors in. This kid's brought up with, let's say, a bunch of Spanish-speaking classmates. This kid's taught, like, a bunch of different Spanish culture aspects. And then, like, he's going to this restaurant every day. Like, at what point can you say this isn't part of his culture? Because this is, like, how he's brought up. So, like, at what point are we exposed to another culture and that culture is actually part of us, you know?
Yeah. That's a really good question.
Because you can't say, so let's see, like, if you got some dude out in the middle of nowhere, or not in the middle of nowhere, but, like, some guy that wants to make money, right? And he's like, oh, rap. I'm going to make a bunch of money off of rapping. And I'm going to, like, just copy what, like, all the artists are doing and just make money like that. Obviously, that's wrong. Like, that's not cool. You shouldn't be stealing someone else's culture. But let's say you got this kid, like, let's say we got this Tommy Galloway, but he grew up in this area that's, like, super heavy into hip-hop culture. And everyone around him is really big into hip-hop. Everyone around him, like, lives this hip-hop lifestyle, right? You got breakdancing club. You got, like, this music studio. How can you say just because this kid's a certain way, this kid doesn't have, like, this Tommy Galloway boy can't be rapping?
Right. Yeah, I think in a situation like that, that is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. Or let's say you've got, because, like, yeah. What are your opinions?
Yeah. Well, so, okay, earlier we sort of got back into this with social media and how that brings different cultures. People get associated with different cultures more easily through social media, or become more aware of certain cultures. And I was thinking about, I mean, we all grew up in smaller towns.
Yeah.
And at least for our town, kind of isolated. And if it wasn't for social media, and certainly say like before TV, or say like 100 years ago, we'd been very different than the people.
Oh yeah.
And Des Moines, or especially even Des Moines, but like especially in our city, like just the way we were. But like I don't think, I mean I didn't really fit in there.
In Des Moines or in your
in
town?
our town.
Yeah.
But being able to kind of on social media or just access to kind of outside world, you kind of see what other cultures are out there or lifestyles that you would fit in better.
Yeah.
And then you kind of already can start sort of being like that and not really feel stuck where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
So from that aspect, like, I'm pretty thankful for that, like that aspect of the ability to interact with different cultures through technology, through whatever, just so you can kind of see what's out there and see where you might fit in better.
I think it's really interesting, like, so when I grew up, I wasn't really aware of, like, putting names to different cultures, like, the way that we call it, like, Chicano culture, Chicana culture. I didn't realize it was, like, I just thought, like, people act the way they do. People act differently. I mean, like, I was the same as you. I mean, I think my town was a little bit smaller than you guys. I come from a town of, like, 200. You guys are, like, what, 7,000?
1,000.
1,000. So you guys are pretty close to my size. Yeah. But, like, yeah, I was the same way. Like, I wasn't really exposed to much.
Right.
And I was, like, scraping at straws to, like, be entertained by things.
Right.
And so I would just, like, take home DVDs from the library, because my family didn't have internet for a long time, you know?
Right.
And so I would just take home movies from the library, and I watched, like, Dragon Ball Z all the time, and that would be, like, my big inspiration. So, like look at that, like, a show from Japan is my part of my culture, because, like, that's what I grew up on. It was, like, just, like, Japanese manga and Japanese anime. And so, like, I can't say that that's not part of my culture, because that's what I grew up on.
Right.
And I wasn't in contact with anybody that was from Japan. I wasn't in contact with any, like, Japanese club, but I was, like, every day watching Japanese shows.
Yeah. 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 Anything else?
No, that's about it.
We did a nice solid 50 minutes here.
Oh wow, look at that.
Dang,
That's crazy. That
Time
was-
flies.
That's a pretty good project right there.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, for Thomas Galloway,
Evan Isabel.
Noah Galloway.
everyone have a great night.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, that was really fun, guys.